No Cover TV, and we're here with Scott Radinsky, right?
That's it.
All right. From Pulley, recently they joined the VCMA Hall of Fame, and part of the wonderful scene of Nardcore in the beginning. And we're so lucky to have a moment to pick his brain. I mean, we have so many years in so many people's footage.
Yeah.
Of different, accounts of what was happening in the Nardcore scene in the 80s.
I can imagine.
Like 12 years of just different people.
Yeah.
It's freaking awesome.
That is cool.
So tell me what happened. Like, all right, you joined that scene in like 83?
It was somewhere around 82 or 83. I was out in Simi, and we started having parties at this girl's house that could facilitate, a couple hundred people. So we were kind of tight with the Stalag guys, Dr. No, Ill Repute, and we would have these parties, and they would come out and they would play, and it would go off, and we'd get halfway through the set, and the cops would come, a normal thing, right?
Yeah.
But the friendship kind of started, and I think it was really, for me, it was probably with Tony first. I was obsessed with the Land of No Toilets record, the 7-inch. And I remember meeting him at a place called the Cathay de Grand down in Hollywood. And they were just cool. Like, we were younger, and they were older. But they kind of, accepted us and took us in. We had a band at the time called Scared Straight. And they were super supportive, bringing us out, playing parties, out in Oxnard, Ventura, and just started meeting, the whole crew that was out here, and it just kind of became part of a friendship. And I think Tony we played a show at a place called the Sun Valley Sportsman's Hall, and I remember Tony saying, "Hey, I'm putting together this compilation on Mystic. It's called Nardcore, and I want you guys to be on it. You guys are Ventura County." So we were, are you kidding me? I think I was in 10th grade at the time.
He's always been super supportive of anybody doing music. He is our godfather. We call him the Godfather.
He doesn't want to hear that,
He doesn't.
but I'll say this: I don't know every individual that's been involved in the scene. There's been a lot of people that have been, big pieces. But I know, as far as my perception, Tony was like the nuts and bolts. He was the guy that kind of kept it going, kind of brought it together. I mean, the first record was all him. And Doug Moody, Ill Repute had the deal with Mystic Records, and Doug gave him the ability to put out this compilation, and he did it, and he picked all the bands, and I think the rest is kind of history, and Nardcore just kind of grew nationally from that point. It was one thing to be down in L.A., and there'd be like the Huntington Beach guys, or these guys from this area, and there was like the Oxnard guys. But when that record came out, it was a whole different thing. And Aggression was a big part of that too, with the whole BYO thing early on. And of course, they established where they were from. But the Nardcore record, for me, is what kind of put things on the map. Yeah.
What is, the first big show you remember being, with Scared Straight? Because if I was listen, I can't play any instruments to save my life, but if I could, and I was in that, if I could travel time and play in a scene, I would love to have been in a band, like a shitty band. I don't even need to be a good band in the Nardcore scene. Yeah. And what was your first big show you remember?
Shows really weren't that big back then.
No, I mean for you though.
Oh, for me,
I can go
playing a real show. The Balboa Theater, or just even the Cathay de Grand, a real established club that wasn't a party, or hey, we're driving out to Oxnard and playing someplace on Silver Strand, on the beach, and playing a garage. It was like a real club. The clubs that were around at the time, they were just random. They popped up all the time. The Balboa Theater was a place that actually held quite a few people. So as far as size-wise, that was pretty cool.
Who's on the bill with you that you remember?
We've played with JFA there. We played some Battle of the Bands. It was a bunch of punk bands that was the the gimmick of the night. We only played there a couple times. The Stardust Ballroom was another big place that held gigs. We never played the Olympic, and the Olympic was kind of like that was the arena of punk rock back then. I mean, there was 3, 4, 5,000 people at the at the Olympic Auditorium, and they were bringing in bands like GBH and Discharge and The Exploited. All these English bands would come over, and then all the rest of the bands would open up for them. Youth Brigade, Ill Repute, Aggression, Dr. No. There was a lot of the Oxnard bands were almost a part of every good LA show that there was. So that was kind of cool. You could go to a show and you kind of belonged,
Yeah.
It was cool.
And even still today, they've made such a reputation for themselves that, Stalag just went to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And, they weren't huge shows, but they could book themselves overseas.
Yeah.
Aggression was playing in Europe and, sleeping in these, abandoned buildings that they were telling us just to go to show to show to show. And in that, just from our community, we branched out, we built.
I remember being blown away that Rick, the drummer of Dr. No, that Dr. No just put out their record and RKL just put out their Keep Laughing LP. And being down at Mystic all the time, anytime, that was the hangout, on Friday, Saturday, we'd just go down there and hang out, and we'd get free records, clean things up, just kind of be around. Mm-hmm. And I remember Rick was down there, the drummer, and he was using probably stolen credit cards, to make these stolen phone cards to make these long distance calls. And I just remember being blown away at the thought that Dr. No and RKL were going on a nationwide tour. Aggression, they were touring the country. And it was like, wow, man, this is pretty cool. These are the same guys that we play parties with, and it was like, damn, they're going out and they're playing in Connecticut or wherever, and it was cool. The thought of that was like, maybe we can do that. And it wasn't too much longer until Tony made that happen and took us along with them to do that. And that was like a whole nother experience, being in 11th grade and hopping in the back of a pickup truck and going on tour with one of my favorite bands, and on top of it, I'm playing drums for them. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, it was, I remember being pretty blown away that, wow, these guys are touring the country. That is pretty cool.